Hi. At a time when I was 3 or 4 years old, and my little brother, Jeff, he's now big time businessman, was in, well, pretty big time, more big time than more than most people, and he might not have ever been a big time businessman because of what happened when he was about one. It was an emergency situation, and my mother would not listen to me. She wouldn't listen to me. He could have been dead now. Never been a big businessman, never grown up. I could have had a brother for about a year and a half, like it's 2 years. I don't think he was even that old, about a year and a half. All because my mother wouldn't listen to me. So, let's kind of get a point across. This really happened. I'm not making this up. I was sitting in a chair. I think I was eating. I was at the kitchen table. And the kitchen table was back in the 70s, and they like to use orange and yellow. The kitchen table had like streaks of it through with orange. The background was yellow. It was like a mustard, like dark yellow. It's hard to describe if you haven't seen the 70s kind of colors. Had the mustard yellow kind of background. Had like little swirls in it, or like little streaks in it of orange. Had like little black dots on it. And then in the seats we sat in, we had two bench seats that sat in the corner. Had a big picture window. We had a bird feeder out there. You could see the birds come by. Had these two orange benches that sat like this. You came in the kitchen from the hallway, which is the main way you had the seat in this corner over here. You had the two bench seats. Then we had two seats for the adults, and this is for the kids. And we'd sit in the bench seat. And my brother's high. I was sitting on this side. See the bench seat here, bench seat there, and then two chairs on the outside. So I was sitting with my back to the picture window, and my brother's, it was in a high chair right here. So I was sitting here, my brother's in a high chair right here at the end of the bench, towards, I think this was a stove over here, and then my brother was sitting there. I think my mother was cooking over the stove over here, and my brother was sitting in a high chair here. And my mother was cracking. Back then, I don't know if it was. I guess you can still do it today, but they'd sell peanuts. You'd buy peanuts and you get them in the shell. I don't know if they shelled them back then. I guess they probably did, but people saved a lot of more money back then, and they would so people had less money back then, so she'd break the shell open and put the peanut in front of my little brother. And he'd pick it up and put it in his mouth. It was cute. Just looking around, hapless. Just blank look on his face like kids about 1 year old do. And she'd put the peanut shell, you already know what's going on, don't you? She'd put the peanut shell, it was a high chair. She'd put the peanut shell close to him on the high chair, and then put the peanut close to him on the high chair, and then put the peanut shell elsewhere. She was doing work. I think she was cooking. The stove was over there. And he'd pick up the peanut, and she'd see him pick up the peanut, put it in his mouth, and start chewing it. And she'd turn around and start doing her work. Well, how kids like to put things in their mouths. And he'd eat the peanut. It was like my little brother planned it, like he was being suicidal or something. And then when she turned around, he'd put the peanut shell in his mouth and start chewing the peanut shell. And he kept doing this. And finally I said, "Mom, he's eating the peanut shells." And my mother said, "No, he's not, Mark. Jeff's eating the peanuts." And she'd crack open another peanut, crack open another peanut shell, give him another peanut, and turn back around and start working, because she didn't like to be distracted. She liked to get work done. My mother's very focused, always has been, and hard worker. And so then she'd turn around and he'd put a peanut shell in his mouth and start chewing on it. And then she'd turn around and open up another peanut shell and put little peanuts, maybe a peanut or two peanuts in front of him. and he'd pick it up and eat it, and then she'd turn around and he'd eat the peanut shell. I said, Mom, he's eating the peanut shell. She said, no, he's not. He's eating the peanut. She said, she maybe even said, see, he's eating the peanut. Look, he's eating the peanut. I said, Mom, he's eating the peanut while you're looking, and while when you turn around, when you're not looking, he's eating the peanut shell. And she said, no, she was in denial. She got very furious. I kept telling her, Mom, he's eating the peanut shell. I said, look. And then he'd eat the peanut, and then while she was looking, he put the peanut shell in his mouth and start chewing it. And she said, oh my God, oh my God. She started screaming, oh my God, oh my God. And she started going into his throat to pull out the peanut shells, because there were many of them now, a good number of them now, you know. Somewhere in his mouth, down his throat, I don't know where it was. I'd say, Mom, I told you. And she said, shut up, shut up. Oh my God, she just kept screaming. She just kept yelling and screaming. And I think the point of this is, when somebody tells you something and it's a vital issue, even if you don't believe it, especially, if it's something different, because you can hear people saying the same things all the time. Those are the things that people accept. When people don't see it, they don't believe it. So, I could be focusing my sight on the New World Order, but I'm not. I could be focusing my sight on the Depression, because, I think it's going to get worse. Let's just put it that way. I think you're going to be finding, tent cities, whether you believe to the same extent or to greater extent or whatever, or less extent, like we did in the Great Depression. They had some people on YouTube that interviewed a black woman that was living during the Great Depression. She would go around and tell people, she'd go around and ask people, do you have any food? She said everybody was going around asking people, do you have any food? And there was a white person, and she I think she had more money, and she would give people, she would have people knock at her door and ask them they would ask for food, and she would give them food. Another woman during the Great Depression, she calls, I think it's called Depression Cooking. You can check out that channel. It's a woman, she's in her 90s. She lived through the Great Depression. She'd say they would put in, they maybe boil some noodles and throw some eggs in, and they'd eat that. They hardly ever ate meat because they couldn't afford it. They would sit by the stove and turn like a rotisserie chicken in order to keep warm. You see, I'm not focused on that. A lot of people are focused on the great. It's something that I'm focused on sometimes, something that I mention sometimes, or the depression that I believe is coming up. But people don't want to hear that there's a depression coming up because they don't see it. But if you look around, you can see it. It's not a recession anymore. It's a depression. But see, people want to hear the same religious talk over and over again, because my channel is focused towards religion. Something more important. I believe what I have to say is more important than the Great Depression, or the Great Depression, the depression that's coming. It is a life and death issue, like the peanut shells and the peanuts. He's eating the peanut, and people don't want to listen to people that have a just different view than that talk about something they don't understand. They don't want to learn it. They want to listen to what they want to listen to, and the same thing they want to listen to. They want to listen to what causes immediate gratification, or whatever, pornography, or a soap opera, or whatever, depending on somewhat depends on. They say it somewhat depends on what sex you are, but try to listen to somebody. Try to listen to me. Listen to somebody that has a different view than you about something, especially if that something is vital, like Christianity is vital. Instead of listening to the same preachers say the same things and entertain you. Because, my little brother's still sitting there, Jeff's still sitting there, putting the peanut in his mouth. And Mom says, he's eating the peanut. She started yelling at me. I said, Mom, he's eating the peanut. Then he's eating the peanut shell. She should turn around and get disgusted. And I'd say, Mom, look, because it was a matter of life and death for my brother, or at least serious injury. God bless you.